Hey guys, my name is Ashton Gleckman. Hope you guys are all doing well. Thanks so much for joining me on this little special inside look at the orchestra. Alrighty, so what we'll go ahead and do is we'll start out just sort of taking a look at the library itself, and in specific the orchestra patch, which is sort of the main patch in the library. Then we'll go ahead and take a look at how I used the orchestra in this specific cue. It's very, very rare that we're only going to be using one library, so what I want to do in this review and overview is sort of take a look at how I used it with other libraries in the context of other libraries. Okay, so just here's like an empty instance of the orchestra that I've loaded up. As you can see, you have 5 different instrument slots on this main page, and then you have assignable arpeggiators here, which you can actually control on the engine page. And the arpeggiators are pretty self-explanatory, but of course you have your normal step sequencer down here. You could choose from 4 to 8, 12 to 16, 32, and that's how that works. And then of course you have your arpeggiator controls. You also have assignable envelopes that you can develop for instruments to create a different effect, and that's just, you can create it like that, you know. And that's very customizable as well, so you can really design the sound. Then of course in your mixer page you're able to control each of the individual instruments. You could also mix the reverb that comes with the library. So that's sort of what you get with the orchestra. And then if you click here, you get your orchestral colors. So you get, you know, your strings, full sustains, your tremolos, your brass, winds, and so these are sort of like your big ensemble patches pretty much. And there's also some mixed patches where they actually will mix different patches together and create different textures. Then you have your orchestral rhythms, which are sort of like pulses, and they're actually very, very useful. For example, right now we're on this basic eighths, but if you were to pull up like a strings chasing sixteenths and we were to play that, right? And if we wanted to, you know, if we wanted to assign our violas to a different arpeggiator to have a different rhythm, you could do that. You could even change this to a, you know, a staccato horn. So then you get sort of a different effect. Right, so that's the really cool thing about the orchestra, is the fact that it sort of creates this snowball effect and sort of gets your composition into a really, really nice pulse. Last but not least, here you have the unbelievable animated orchestra page that has sort of different textures that are already created for you, so you can actually just go in and just start playing. So you sort of already have this sound that's created for you, and it sort of just gets your creative juices flowing, which is the really great thing about it. So what I want to do is to sort of play back the piece, and throughout the piece I'm just going to explain to you how I'm using the orchestra at certain sections, and how the orchestra sort of acts as the musical spine, or sort of the backbone to the whole entire composition. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and start playing this cue. So we have this main pulse, right? 1, 2. So we have these trombones playing. 4. And then we have our main string ostinato line come in. And this is all controlled using mod wheel, the dynamics. And so when our string arp 2 comes in, that's sort of like the higher string section, right? Or violins, violas. So that's what we have going on there, and that sort of keeps this whole entire section binded together. If you listen to that. And then over here, our pulse from the beginning actually comes back in. Right, so we have that. Then we have our string arp 2, our higher strings. And then, of course, our orchestral pulse from the beginning of the cue that sort of carries into this section. And if we sort of take all these, we take a look at what's going on. You see that the MIDI information is so incredibly simple, but what's actually being played, like, it's a little bit more complex. And so that's the thing, like, we as composers are always trying to save time and everything. So if you were actually going to go into a string staccato patch or a staccatissimo patch and actually program the the very complex string pattern, why not just have a library like this, which allows you to do it so much quicker, and it saves you so much time, and it's so incredibly efficient. That's what's so great about the library. And so that's sort of what binds everything together in the whole entire piece, and that's sort of what got my piece off to a good start. When I was first writing this piece, what I did is I pretty much just opened up the orchestra, and I was just sort of messing with some patches. I put some stuff down, and the whole entire piece just sort of built from there. So next thing that I want to do is to sort of describe what else is going on in this piece. So what we have going on here is we actually have some trumpets from the orchestra. And then we have this 16th note sort of like repetition thing from Berlin Brass. And I love it so much because they actually recorded, of course, like the and so you get that very, very sort of natural feel to it. So what we have going on here is a pretty normal orchestration doubling technique. We have a French horn, and then we have flutes and clarinets. So here's just like the French horn. Yeah, that totally was me ripping off Metal Gear Solid. And then so here's our winds. And so those both together sound like. And then over here we have them both raising an octave, and we sort of get this. And so here we have this gigantic low-end like synth thing that goes on, and everything just sort of like melts under it, and that's what's so nice about it. You could also hear that sound at the beginning of Autobots, Steve Jablonsky, the Transformers score. You just have this insanely low synth pad, and it just sort of adds this whole other... And we have this cello line that's sort of like do 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 do. And then it's imitated with more strings. Then we also have a low sort of men's choir. And that's from Metropolis Arc 2. And so then we go into our section with all like the harmony and everything. So the harmony can be found in the strings. If I just go ahead and play all of our string legatos. And then when we add our French horn sustains, it sort of adds this otherworldly warmth to it. Where are you? Here we go. Right, so we have that going on, and then we add in the choir. And then our woman's legato from Metropolis Arc 2. And then all of our sort of low-end sort of synth pulses and everything, which is actually, I believe, from Project Alpha, which is a Hybrid 2 library. And we have these hits here, which I have no idea what those are from, but it's awesome. Ah, so Metropolis Arc 1. Or, is it 2? It is indeed 1. Yeah, Metropolis Arc 1. So yeah, so that's what we have going on in this section. And then we go into this next section, and what we have going on is we have our high strings come back in and just to sort of create this very sort of high flottando feel over this pulse from the beginning as well. And then we have that come back in. And then our next section, which the harmony is so it's pretty simple, but yeah, so here's just that section. And we have this string ostinato line under it to sort of give it some movement and momentum. So that's really what it's just all about. For me personally, when I'm programming strings, if I have the time, I usually just like to program them individually, you know, not using a string ensemble patch or anything, because it creates a much richer tone. You know what I mean? It's just something that you can't totally get from a... Everything just sort of blends well, and it's just much more creamy and delightful and I've never used creamy as a adjective to describe string writing. And yeah, so that's just my little overview of the orchestra, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much to Best Service for sending me the library. I really enjoy it. Thanks so much for sticking around and watching the review, and I will see you guys later.